We continue as Go and Kubfu are climbing the mountain that Ash and Bee had been training on at the day before. As the tower draws closer, Go tries to think about what they'll have to face within. However, he looks to Kubfu, seems ready for anything, which makes him more confident that they'll be able to take whatever's thrown at them. They get to the Tower of Darkness and the doors open. The person inside asks if he's ready. Go nods, although he'd feel better if he had his other Pokemon with him. Unfortunately, he had to leave Cinderace and the others with Ash and Chloe, but regardless, he can't back out now. The first person tells him the rules of the tower. In order to obtain the Scroll of Darkness and master Single Strike style, Go and Kubfu must climb the 5 floors of the tower, and face each trainer within, each of which are masters of the Dark type. However, if he leaves, or if he loses a battle, he may not get another opportunity to climb the tower. The first battle begins and Kubfu must face a Zoroark. The Dark Fox is very tricky in its uses of Shadow Ball, Night Daze, and Focus Blast. However, while the two struggle, Kubfu manages to focus its energy into a few critical blows, which ultimately take down the Zoroark. Go is very proud of Kubfu, but the legendary Pokemon doesn't seem to feel the same. If anything, it looks frustrated. Go consoles it and soon realizes that Kubfu was annoyed it couldn't beat Zoroark in a single hit. He apologizes and says they'll just have to try harder next time. The next floor, they face a Scrafty, a fighting type just like them. It's here Go tries a strategy in order to beat the opponent in less hits. He has Kubfu take the defensive, choosing to dodge attacks and block hits in order to take the time and stack up some bulk ups. This actually seems to work out well, although even though a single Aerial Ace takes down the Scrafty, Kubfu still doesn't feel right about it. He feels much more exhausted despite having been able to take multiple hits. The two strategize for a little while, trying to think of a way to perfect this style of fighting. However, they soon have to climb to the 3rd floor. On the 3rd floor, they face their most difficult trial yet, a Malamar, whose psychic attacks and contrary ability make it much more of a challenge for Kubfu. The two once again have to be on the defensive, while Go attempts to come up with a strategy to defeat it. It doesn't take Go long to come up with an idea, however, as he uses Kubfu's small size to confuse Malamar and get through small areas in the tower that Malamar can't. He even manages to get Malamar stuck, and has Kubfu bulk up and focus energy, before having it strike a column, causing a part of the staircase leading to the next floor to fall on top of Malamar, knocking it out. Kubfu still seems exhausted, and Go asks if they should keep going. Kubfu nods despite its injuries, and so, reluctantly, Go continues onwards. On the 4th floor, they face a Krokorok. Go thinks he has this in the bag at first, as he's seen Ash fight a Krokorok before. But he soon realizes he's mistaken to believe this, as Krokorok decimates them with powerful foul plays, low kicks, and fire fangs, as well as stomping tantrums. Go thinks he and Kubfu might be in a little over their heads, but Kubfu wants to keep going. After all, this is the last floor they have to deal with. So the two give it their all, and in the end, a few good brick break hits manage to take down Krokorok. However, with the final hit, Kubfu stumbles in exhaustion. Go runs over and picks up Kubfu, saying they've done enough. He's about to leave, when Mustard climbs up the stairs. Mustard asks him what the matter is, to which Go says that Kubfu's battled too much and they should leave. Mustard chuckles, saying he's glad Kubfu is such a good, caring trainer, before telling Go to follow him. They reach the next floor. Both Goh and Kubfu stare amazed at the scroll on the wall. Kubfu leaps from Goh's arms and begins to run towards it, only to be stopped by a large, similarly colored Pokemon. Mustard thanks his partner Pokemon, before telling Goh that gaining the Scroll of Darkness is a great honor. Not many trainers have ever seen the scroll, so those who do must recognize how high an achievement it is. Goh nods, looking down to Kubfu. This is when Mustard turns, throwing his hat and mint green jacket to reveal his dojo attire and wild hair. Mustard announces that if Goh wants to evolve Kubfu, they'll need to get past him and Urshifu. Goh frantically says they can't fight since Kubfu is so injured. But Kubfu seems ready to go despite his exhaustion. Mustard does agree with Goh on this though, tossing him a citrus berry, saying that should take care of things. Goh feeds the citrus berry to Kubfu, and after the two attempt to plan, the battle begins. Goh tries to start with Bulk Up, but Urshifu quickly strikes with a close combat, sending Kubfu flying back. Kubfu tumbles across the ground, but manages to get back up. Goh seems reluctant to continue, so Mustard calls for Urshifu to use Surging Strikes. This beats Kubfu with 3 powerful hits. Goh calls for Aerial Ace, which as Urshifu goes for another Surging Strikes, Kubfu manages to land it, uppercutting Urshifu's jaw. Goh then tells Kubfu to bulk up, now while it has the chance. However, Mustard goes for Ice Punch, which lands, freezing the bear in the middle of its bulk up. Mustard then commands another close combat, which shatters the ice and sends Kubfu flying into the wall. Kubfu slumps over and Goh rushes to its aid. Mustard tells Goh he may be old, but he isn't going to go easy on him. After all, Goh would never learn if he did. Goh asks Kubfu if it can keep going, and Small Bear nods. Goh calls for a focus energy, but with a twist. He specifically calls for the energy to be focused into its fists. Kubfu nods, focusing all its energy into a single blow. When Goh thinks there is enough, he calls for Kubfu to charge in, which it does, only to be met with a detect from Urshifu. Mustard congratulates them on managing to transform their focus energy into a focus punch. However, an attack like that will never land against his ace Pokemon. Goh really has to think now. Kubfu had already gotten stronger from this, but it wasn't enough now. He began to down himself. Mustard was the former undefeated champion of Galar. How was he supposed to compete with that? Suddenly Goh got an idea. He thought about Mustard's words, about how to evolve Kubfu more carefully. And then he hatches a plan. He looks to Kubfu, and in that very moment, they come to an understanding. He calls for an Aerial Ace, which Mustard once again has Urshifu use Detect to avoid. However, Kubfu just goes flying by. Mustard is confused at first, but it doesn't take long for him to realize Kubfu wasn't aiming for Urshifu in the first place. Kubfu whizzes past Mustard and races towards the scroll. Mustard tells Urshifu not to let it, but with the big head start Kubfu got, it manages to still get to the scroll first. With that, Mustard stops Urshifu and concedes defeat. Goh happily rushes over to Kubfu and hugs the legendary Pokemon. Mustard congratulates them, saying that Goh has found more than one way to achieve his goals. Goh then thinks back to what Mewtwo said. He'd finally done what Mewtwo told him to. He's put training into his Pokemon, and so far, it seems to have paid off. Mustard tells Goh that the scroll is now his to use. Goh and Kubfu read the scroll, following its instructions over what will be their battle style. Kubfu trains hard on the top floor of the tower, the two working hard into the night, until finally, under the gaze of the full moon, Kubfu masters Single Strike style and evolves into Urshifu. Showing pride in the mastery of its new power, it punches a wicked blow, which has enough force to shatter all nearby windows completely. Goh stares wide-eyed, before the group all begin to laugh together, joyful that Kubfu had now reached its goal of mastering Single Strike. The next morning, after Goh talks to Asahi about his findings with Urshifu, the group is trying to decide what to do. Ash has already gained Gigantamax with Gengar, and Goh has put in more training, now understanding how important it is. Even Chloe has learned a little, by seeing what kind of work Honey must do as a dojo matron. It's at this point, B suggests that they could put Ash's skills to the test once more. When the others ask what she means, B explains how there's another gym leader in her hometown, who's a master of Ghost-type Pokemon, even having a Gengar of his own. He's pretty formidable, albeit timid, and is currently in the World Championships himself. Ash loves the sound of that. However, it does mean they have to say goodbye to the dojo. As they're about to leave, they thank Honey and Mustard for letting them stay there. Mustard says there's many more things they can learn, so if they ever want to return, they're more than welcome to. Honey also thanks Chloe for her help with their daily routine, as well as complimenting her abilities in taking care of Bulbasaur. Honey actually hands Chloe Bulbasaur's Pokeball, saying that Bulbasaur would be happier with a trainer like her. Chloe tries to refuse, saying that she can't imagine taking Bulbasaur away from its home, even saying she's not much of a trainer, as she barely catches Pokemon. But then she stops, and she brings out the others. Eevee, Shieldon, Yamper, all three were always with her now. And regardless of whether she considered herself a good trainer, she couldn't say she wasn't one. Honey also adds something more to this. Honey recalls that Chloe's trying to figure out what to evolve Eevee into, and says that Bulbasaur can help with that. When Chloe asks what she means, Honey explains that Bulbasaur is a grass type, the same type as the Pokemon Leafeon. Having Bulbasaur around could help Chloe better understand grass types, which could help her better understand Eevee's evolution. Chloe thinks about this for a moment. It doesn't sound bad to her at all. Plus, she can't lie and say she didn't enjoy all the time she spent with Bulbasaur. So with that, Bulbasaur is added to the group. Their next goodbyes are with Avery and Clara, who say they'll both work hard to become Galar gym leaders. And when they reach those positions, they want rematches with Ash and Goh respectively. Goh jokes around, telling Clara that when they do, she better not put up more toxic spikes for the battle. Clara starts to look angry about the remark, but Avery starts to talk her down. As they leave, Mustard calls out to Ash and Goh. When they turn, he smiles and wishes them both good luck, saying he knows just how troublesome reaching their goals can end up being. Ash and Goh nod, saying they'll both do their best, and with that, they leave the dojo, boarding a Corviknight taxi to stow on side. Inside the taxi, Goh gets a notification. It's here he finds out 3 Project Mew medals have been sent to him. He's really happy, but then sees that he has the lowest amount out of everyone currently. Goh sighs, but Ash tells him he'll just have to take on some more missions and work his way up. Chloe also says not to worry, as she's sure more missions will pop up soon for him to do. Goh nods, and the group begin to talk more as they slowly fly to Stow on Side. Upon arrival in Stow on Side, our heroes are brought to the fighting type gym, a massive stadium, similar in exterior design to Milo's gym. B informs them that in order to allow Dynamax during battle, Ash will face the Ghost Gym leader in this stadium. Go and Chloe find this a little confusing, thinking they could just go to the site of the Ghost Gym. However, B soon takes them to the Ghost Gym, a rundown shack of a building. B tells them that despite the gym leader's power, his gym wasn't built to be a spectacular stadium like most other major Galar gym leaders. It wasn't even built on a power spot, meaning Dynamaxing is impossible there. Go asks what she means by a power spot, to which B briefly explains the power spots are specific locations in which the energy of Dynamax has been located and harnessed. Most stadiums in Galar, and even battlefields behind the Master Dojo, were built on power spots. There's also multiple power spots located in the wild area. Now that the history lesson is done, B goes up and knocks on the door. On the other side, a soft, timid, familiar voice tells them to go away. B says she's brought someone who wants to battle in the World Championships. The door slowly creaks open, revealing the masked face of Alistair, the boy from the Ghost Train. The group gets reacquainted, not knowing until now that the boy is the Galar region's Ghost-type gym leader. They talk for quite a while until, finally, Alistair is convinced about Ash in a World Championships match. So with that, they go to the Stow-on-Site Stadium. The battle is a one-on-one, and so Ash brings out Gengar. He's ready to go all out with his Gengar's Gigantamax form, when Alistair reveals a Gengar of his own. Ash starts out quickly, having Gengar restrain Alistair's Gengar with Psychic. However, Alistair's has Gengar phase out in order to avoid the attack. Then, once his Gengar is behind Ash's, he has it put Ash's to sleep with hypnosis. Then, once that's done, Alistair tries to begin his assault. He calls for Dark Pulse, but Ash tries to break through to Gengar. Ash's Gengar is hit with Dark Pulse, but for a moment Ash notices that Gengar seems to begin to wake up. However, he's not up just yet. As Alistair calls for Shadow Ball, Ash lets out a yell that is loud enough to fill the entire stadium. In that instant, his Gengar wakes up, slipping away into the floor beneath it just as the Dark Pulse is supposed to hit. Alistair calls for Gengar to disappear as well, which it does. For a while, no one can see either Pokemon, but then both appear. Ash's Gengar launching Alistair's away with a Shadow Ball. Alistair's flies in again, but Ash calls for Dazzling Gleam, making a barrier around it that pushes Alistair's Gengar back. So, Alistair resorts to Gigantamax. His Gengar grows bigger and fires off a Max Ooze. It doesn't do too much to Ash's Gengar, but it raises his special attack. Ash realizes that there's only so much he can do like this, so he calls back Gengar, and Gigantamax is it as well. He calls for a Max Mindstorm, but Alistair calls for a Max Guard. Then Alistair goes for a Max Darkness, which hits Ash's Gengar hard. However, Gengar does manage to hang in there just barely, which is what Ash was hoping for. As Alistair's Gengar reverts to its Gigantamax form, Ash calls for a G-Max Terror, which hits Alistair's Gengar, but the gym leader's Pokemon is still able to hang in there. With that, Alistair tries to call for another Dark Pulse. However, Ash realizes something. He calls for Gengar to dodge, confusing everyone as Gengar is Gigantamaxed. However, with Gengar having used 3 moves already, it reverts from Gigantamax. Just as Alistair's Dark Pulse would hit, they find that the attack was completely avoided, and Gengar was gone. Alistair realizes what's going on and calls for his Gengar to follow, but Ash calls out for Psychic. With Alistair unable to see where Ash's Gengar is, Psychic is able to render Alistair's Gengar immobilized. Alistair tries to find a way to counterattack, or at the very least break free, but it's too late. Gengar leaps from the ground, and while using Psychic to constrict Alistair's Gengar, it uses a dazzling gleam up close, enveloping it and dealing massive damage when combined with Psychic. With that, Alistair's Gengar faints, and Ash is declared the winner. Absolutely ecstatic, Ash and Gengar embrace. Ash checks his rank, and finds he's rank 122. All he'd need is at least one more battle, and he'd be in the Ultra class. Ash thanks Alistair for the battle, but the boy acts very shy around Ash, despite them already knowing each other. So, Ash decides to let Gengar talk to Alistair. Ash walks away, telling the two of them to have fun. Alistair looks from Ash to Gengar. Gengar seems very happy right now, and Alistair can tell why. Alistair says he can tell Gengar really likes Ash as a trainer. Gengar agrees. However, Alistair seems to notice something. Alistair asks if Gengar has been treated poorly in the past. Gengar tries to hide the answer, but Alistair can figure out for himself. Alistair says that it's clear Gengar wants to become stronger, not just for Ash's sake, but for his own. So Alistair tells Gengar that he's sure Gengar will be able to get stronger, especially if he sticks with Ash. Gengar nods, and hugs Alistair. Alistair laughs a little bit, and with that, Gengar flies off to join Ash and the others. The group part ways with Bea after a while and begin to leave. At first they think they should just see the sights, when they run into Sonia. Sonia gets acquainted with Chloe as the two have never met before, and she talks about why she's here. There's a mural that's been part of Galar's history for years, and so she wants to check it out in order to better understand Galar's history. Not only that, but afterwards she's going to Balinlet, as she had received an invitation to participate in a friendly competition. Just before she can explain what this friendly competition is, they hear a loud booming sound. Sonia realizes it's coming from the area of the mural, so everyone races over to it. They get to the top of the steps, only to find a large elephant Pokemon, and standing next to it is Ash's rival, Bede. Bede commands the elephant, calling it by the name of Kaparaja, and telling it to break the mural. Ash attempts to stop him, of course, but this only infuriates Bede. Bede tries to push Ash away, saying that he needs to back off and let him do his work. There's Galar particle readings coming from behind the mural, and he needs to collect as much of those as possible. He tries to command Kaparaja once again, but Ash still persists, even going as far as to get in front of Bede and Kaparaja. Bede grits his teeth, saying if Ash is really going to get in his way, then I'll just have to crush him, sending out Reuniclus. Ash smirks, but then their Rotom's phones go off. The two are both in the Great class, and a match can be set between them. Ash asks if Bede would like to settle this with a World Championships match, to which Bede groans, agreeing as that just means his boss will see how strong he is, and that he's doing his job. Besides, he only needs one more battle to enter the Ultra class anyways. So, they schedule their match. It's a 2-on-2, and Ash's Galarian Darmanitan is ready to take on Reuniclus. Darmanitan runs in for an Ice Punch, however that's blocked by Reflect. Reuniclus then uses Psyshock to counterattack. It hits hard, but Galarian Darmanitan is just fine. Ash decides it's best to end this quickly, and so calls for Belly Drum, maxing out its attack stat, while also putting Galarian Darmanitan into Zen mode. With that, a single Flare Blitz from Galarian Darmanitan takes out Reuniclus, despite the Reflect. Bede scoffs before bringing in his ace Pokemon, Hatterene. Ash tries to have Galarian Darmanitan beat down on Hatterene, but Bede just has Hatterene take the hits while setting up a few calm mines. Then, once Ash is about to go in for the final blow, Hatterene counters with Dazzling Gleam, blocking the attack and damaging Darmanitan in the process. With all the damage Darmanitan took from recoil and fighting Reuniclus, it succumbs to its injuries, feigning against Bede's strongest Pokemon. Bede cockily explains that while Ash might have gotten a little stronger, he's still the trainer endorsed by the chairman, and he won't be stopped by anyone. Ash doesn't need to think too hard about who he'll use against Bede. He's already got the right Pokemon in mind for a revenge match, so he sends in Lucario, whose aura shoots up all around it as soon as it enters the battle. Hatterene seems a little caught off guard seeing Lucario ready for battle, but Bede completely ignores it, calling for a Psychic. Hatterene sends out a pulse of Psychic energy, but Ash has Lucario counter with an Aura Sphere. The two attacks struggle against each other, but Bede takes this opportunity to strike with Mystical Fire. The attack hits Lucario hard thanks to the multiple calm mines that Bede set up. Lucario is pushed back, but gets up once Ash asks if it can keep going. Immediately, Lucario rushes in with a double team, confusing Bede and Hatterene. Then, Ash calls for the double teams to catapult Lucario, allowing it to get a major boost in speed and power as it goes in with a bullet punch. Hatterene is knocked back, and Bede's bravado is starting to break. He calls for another Psychic, which manages to lock Lucario in place, before slamming it to the ground. Ash notices Lucario has already taken a lot of damage. He needs to do something. Final Gambit is a no-go, so that idea is immediately discarded. He thinks about using Mega Evolution as a way to get the upper hand against Bede. Lucario looks back, and the two of them come to an understanding. They realize they can still battle just fine for now, so Ash calls for Double Team, this time having Lucario scatter around the entire area. Bede tries to pick the right one, but when he calls for Mystical Fire, all the Lucario form their own Aura Spheres, blocking the attack. Ash then calls for them all to fire. They all combine, forming a massive Aura Sphere, which hits both Hatterene and the nearby Copperajah. Copperajah is badly damaged by this, but Hatterene is doing just fine thanks to the defensive boost of Calm Mind. Bede tells Ash he might as well just give up. Not even that giant Aura Sphere thing was good enough to take them down. He once again calls Ash a weak trainer. But this time Bede's mind games don't get to him. Instead, Ash just says he's going to win no matter what, because he has a bond with Lucario that Bede will never be able to understand. Bede calls for Hatterene to use Psychic again, but this time, when it locks Lucario in place, Ash tells Lucario to collect its aura together. Once Lucario's aura has formed around it, Ash says to release it all at once. Lucario releases the aura, flaring it so massively, it manages to reverse Psychic back onto Hatterene. With Lucario free, Ash calls for something strange. He tells Lucario to build up its energy like Final Gambit, but this time in both fists. This confuses the others, with Bede even saying that he'll be able to take a hit from Final Gambit with ease, and then Lucario will just take itself out. However, Lucario seems to fully trust Ash. Once the energy is built up, Ash calls for Lucario to rush in like with Bullet Punch. Lucario rushes in, maintaining the energy as well as it can. Suddenly the energy begins to change, turning into something more steely in power, similar to Bullet Punch. Sonia sees this and notices what this is. She's about to say what it is, but Ash cuts her off, as he calls out for Lucario to use Meteor Mash. Suddenly, a light blue aura forms around Lucario's entire body, as it slams both fists down on Hatterene. The attack hits with more force than Bede could have prepared for, knocking Hatterene so hard into the ground, it cracks the floor beneath them under the immense pressure. The Rotom drone flies over and confirms that Bede's Hatterene has been defeated. And Ash is the winner. Ash and Lucario high-five, relieved that they actually managed to pull off the win, even turning their final gambit into the mighty Meteor Mash. Ash also checks his rank to find that he's now rank 99, making him just barely in the Ultra class. He's one step closer to the Master's 8, and he couldn't be more excited. Bede, however, is furious. He says that this was just a fluke, and that it won't stop him at all. He turns and calls for Copperajah to break the mural. Despite its injuries, the elephant Pokemon raises its trunk, only to be called back into a Pokeball. Standing nearby, alongside his trusted secretary, Oleana, is Chairman Rose. Rose tells Bede that he's very disappointed. First, he had to demote him for his failure in battle against that particular Pokemon. And next, he finds Bede has stolen his trusted partner Pokemon, and is now desecrating a mural so important to the region of Galar. Bede stutters, trying to explain himself, but Rose sturdily says he has had enough. If this is the way Bede is going to be, then he doesn't deserve to be endorsed by him anymore. In fact, as the chairman of the World Championships, he hereby eliminates Bede from the events as punishment. For if Bede is going to continue to fail him, then he must suffer the consequences. Before he leaves, he apologizes to everyone around who wishes to see the mural and peacefully. However, he does hope they enjoyed the battle. He then looks over to Ash, taking note of the boy. All he says is, "This is the boy Leon keeps talking about," before walking away. Everyone is quiet. Bede just stares, watching Rose walk away. He looks devastated, falling to his knees, utterly speechless. Ash tries to apologize, thinking this could help, but Bede roars to get away from him. Ash has ruined his life. Rose took him in and raised him. He owes everything to Rose, and was just doing what he was told. Now he has nothing, and it's all Ash's fault. With that, Bede runs off, trying to hide the tears that have begun to form in his eyes. Ash can't help but feel bad for the guy. Even when Goh tries to say that it was Bede's fault, and it was his own actions that got him fired and kicked out of the World Championships, Ash still feels sorry for him. Sonia then walks up to the mural, taking it in completely. However, not too long after, the mural crumbles into dust. The damage done by Copperajah was still enough to destroy it. However, on the other side are two statues, one of a dog with a sword, and the other of a dog with a shield, standing alongside two kingly figures. Everyone stares, unable to comprehend what that is. What does it mean? Why is it hidden away? More importantly, why do the Sword and Shield dogs remind Sonia of something? And that's where we'll be leaving things for right now. So what do you guys think? Are you happy that Goh has gained the power of Urshifu? Are you excited for Ash's Ultra Class battles? And are you ready to see what other secrets the Galar region holds? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!